The rain came down in sheets, soaking through my coat as I stood outside the towering glass office of Sterling Enterprises, clutching the resignation letter that felt heavier than the world. My heart pounded, not from the cold, but from the thought of leaving him, Elliot Sterling, the man who'd turned my life into a storm of loyalty and unspoken love. I'd been his perfect assistant for 3 years. But tonight, I'd walk away forever, or so I thought. My name is Caleb Winters, and I wasn't supposed to fall for my boss. I was 24 when I started working for Elliot, a 29-year-old alpha CEO whose presence commanded every room. He was all sharp suits and sharper wit, with piercing green eyes that could unravel anyone. But it was during his Ruts, those intense, primal periods when his alpha biology took over, that I saw the real Elliot, vulnerable, raw, and fiercely protective. I'd stay late, organizing his schedule, deflecting calls, and ensuring no one saw him at his weakest. I was his shield, his anchor. And somewhere between those long nights and quiet mornings, I fell in love with him. New York City hummed around me as I stared at the letter, my neat handwriting now blurring in the rain. I typed it a dozen times, but this final version was handwritten. Personal confession I'd never speak aloud. Elliot, I can't keep pretending I'm just your assistant. I love you, but I need to let you go. I'd never give him this version. I'd slip the typed one under his door and vanish. He didn't need me anymore. He had his empire, his pack, his future. I was just Caleb, the beta who kept his world spinning. The office lobby glowed warmly, a stark contrast to the storm outside. I stepped inside, shaking off the rain, and took the elevator to the 47th floor. Elliot's office was a fortress of glass and steel, but tonight, it felt like a cage. I knocked softly, my heart in my throat. No answer. I pushed the door open and found him slumped at his desk, tie loosened, his dark hair falling into his eyes. He looked exhausted, not from work, but from something deeper. Caleb, he said, his voice low, almost a growl. You're late. I'm not here to work, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I slid the typed letter across his desk. This is my resignation. Effective immediately. His head snapped up, green eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made my knees weak. What the hell is this? He grabbed the letter, scanning it, his jaw tightening. You're leaving. Just like that. I have to, I said, forcing the words out. I can't do this anymore. Do what? He demanded, standing now, his tall frame towering over the desk. You're the best assistant I've ever had. You've never complained, never faltered, not even during my ruts. Why now? I swallowed hard, my resolve cracking under his gaze. Because I'm not just your assistant, Elliot. And you know it. The silence that followed was deafening. His eyes searched mine, and for the first time, I saw something flicker in them, something beyond the professional mask he wore. But I couldn't stay to find out what it was. I turned and walked out, the rain swallowing me whole as I left the building. The next morning, I woke to a pounding on my apartment door. Brooklyn was quieter than Manhattan, but the noise was unmistakable. I opened the door to find Elliot, soaked from head to toe, his usually impeccable suit clinging to his frame. His eyes were wild, almost feral. You don't get to do this, he said, stepping inside without invitation. You don't get to drop a bomb like that and disappear. Elliot. I started. But he cut me off, holding up the crumpled, handwritten letter, the one I hadn't meant to leave behind. This, he said, his voice shaking. You wrote this. You meant this. I froze. I'd slipped the wrong letter under his door. My heart sank as I realized he'd read every word of my confession. I didn't mean for you to see that, I whispered. Why? He demanded, stepping closer, his sense-eater and storm overwhelming me. Why didn't you tell me? Because you're Elliot Sterling. I snapped, my voice breaking. You're untouchable. You're an alpha. And I'm just me. I've spent 3 years hiding how I feel, organizing your life, protecting you during your ruts, because I thought that's all I could be. But I can't keep breaking my own heart. He stared at me, his chest heaving. You think I don't feel it too? He said, his voice barely above a whisper. Every time you stayed late. Every time you brought me coffee at dawn. Every time you looked at me like I was more than my title, I felt it. Caleb. But I was terrified of ruining you. I blinked, stunned. Ruin me? Elliot, I'm already ruined. I've been in love with you for years. He closed the distance between us, his hand cupping my face, his thumb brushing my cheek. Then why are you leaving me? He asked, his voice raw. I couldn't answer. His touch burned, and for the first time, I let myself lean into it. The kiss that followed was desperate, hungry, a collision of everything we'd held back. The world fell away, leaving only us 12 men who danced around love for too long. But it wasn't that simple. The next week was a whirlwind of stolen moments and hard truths. Elliot's world wasn't built for us. He was an alpha, expected to marry an omega, to carry on his family's legacy. His board of directors, his pack, his investors, they all watched him like hawks. And I was a beta, an outsider in their eyes. We stole kisses in his office, held hands in the dark. But the weight of reality pressed down on us. One night, at a gala in Manhattan, everything unraveled. I'd agreed to attend as his assistant. One last time. The ballroom glittered with wealth, but I felt like an imposter. Elliot looked flawless in his tuxedo, but his eyes kept finding mine across the room. Then, his mother, Victoria Sterling, cornered me. You're a distraction, she said coldly. Elliot has responsibilities. You're not part of his future. Her words cut deeper than I'd expected. I excused myself, slipping onto the balcony, the city skyline blurring through my tears. I'd always known this was a possibility, but hearing it aloud shattered something in me. I loved him. But could I ask him to risk everything? Elliot found me there, his face pale. What did she say to you? He demanded. The truth, I said, my voice hollow. I don't belong in your world, Elliot. I never did. Don't say that, he said, grabbing my hand. You're my world. But I pulled away. I can't be the reason you lose everything. Your company, your family, your pack, they'll never accept this. Accept us. He looked like I'd struck him. Caleb, I don't care what they think. I love you. Those words should have been enough. But they weren't. I left the gala, my heart in pieces, determined to let him go for good. Weeks passed, and I threw myself into a new job at a small nonprofit. trying to rebuild my life. But Elliot was everywhere in the news, in my dreams, in the ache I couldn't shake. I'd blocked his number, ignored his emails, but I couldn't escape him. Not when I loved him so fiercely. One evening, as I walked home through Central Park, I saw him. He stood under a street lamp, his coat dusted with snow, holding a folder. He looked different, less polished, more human. "Caleb," he said, his voice soft but resolute. "I need you to hear me out." I wanted to run, but my feet wouldn't move. "Elliot, we can't." I stepped down, he said, cutting me off. "I'm no longer CEO of Sterling Enterprises." I stared at him, dumbfounded. "What?" "I told the board I'm done living their version of my life," he said, stepping closer. "I sold my shares. I'm starting over on my terms. And I want you with me." He handed me the folder. Inside was a business plan for a new Venturian nonprofit focused on supporting marginalized communities, including queer youth. My heart stopped. This was my dream, the kind of work I'd always wanted to do. "I can't do this without you," he said, not just as my assistant, but as my partner. In everything. Tears stung my eyes as I looked at him, the man who'd given up an empire for a chance at us. "You're insane," I whispered, but I was smiling. "Insane for you," he said, pulling me into his arms. We kissed under the snow, the world quiet around us. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. There were still battles ahead, prejudices to face, and a future to build. But for the first time, we were free to love each other, not as alpha and beta, not as boss and assistant, but as equals. And in that moment, I knew I'd been his perfect assistant. But now, I was his everything.